In this video, I'm going to show you 6 of the highest paying career paths in the UK right now, and I'm also going to show you how you can get started in each one and work your way to the top. If you're just entering the world of work, or perhaps you're looking to start a new career, then it pays to know which career paths are the most lucrative. And it also helps to know how you can get started in them and how you can progress your way to the top and reach the top pay levels. We recently did a study over at Standout CV where we used data from the Office of National Statistics to find out what the highest paying careers in the UK are right now. And then we did some further research to find out what the most common routes were for people to enter those careers and work their way to the top end of the pay scales. So in this video, I'm going to look at 6 of these high paying careers and tell you the following things. What the career is, so what the job involves, what you'll be doing and what kind of skills are needed, how much money you can earn, so what are the highest average pays for the top end jobs within these careers, the typical career path for each job, so how do people get started in the job, what kind of progression and promotions do they take to work their way up to the top, and most importantly, how to get started in these careers. So what sort of entry level jobs do you need to look at applying for to get started, what kind of qualifications do you need, and I'm going to try where possible to look at the most low cost and easiest ways to get into these careers. And also as you go through the video, if you want to check out any of the resources I mentioned, so some of the job sites or training providers, they're all in the description below. The first career on this list is financial manager. So financial managers are, broadly speaking, in charge of looking after a business's money. So they will be doing things like reporting on financial health, ensuring the company stays profitable, and looking after all of their tax and accounting requirements. Finance jobs are, generally speaking, well suited to people with a good head for figures and people with an organised and methodical approach to work. The average financial manager in the UK earns around £67,000 a year, but it's not uncommon to see finance managers earn well in excess of £100,000 a year. There are lots of different roles within finance, so there are lots of different approaches you can take to get started. But we found most commonly that people would start in some kind of entry-level finance role, like a finance assistant or an accounts assistant, and they would start on around about £19,000 a year, and these roles would involve supporting more senior finance staff with things like administration and general office work. Then within around 5 years, you would generally move into a mid-level finance role like an accountant, where you'd be on around £30,000 to £35,000 a year, and you would be responsible for things like producing financial reports and advising businesses on tax issues. And then at around 13 years in the industry, you could expect to hit a management position like financial controller, and that's where you'd start to see the higher salaries of around £67,000 a year. But then you could progress further into a role like a finance director, where you'd be looking after a large business's finances, where the salaries can be even higher. One of the good things about choosing finance as a career is that you don't necessarily need a lot of qualifications to get started, because every company takes a different approach to recruitment. Obviously, finance qualifications will help you to get a foot in the door in some places, but a lot of companies will take you on with no experience and only basic qualifications such as GCSEs. Good grades in maths are favoured by employers, of course, because you will be working with numbers a lot. There are also lots of apprenticeships available within the finance sector, and these are schemes where employers take you on with no experience, train you on the job and get you qualified. So it's a really good way to learn the industry and get paid at the same time. I'll actually put a link to the Association of Accounting Technicians below in the description. They are a training provider, and on their website they have a big list of apprenticeships that are available right now that you can apply to directly, where you can start working, start earning and start working towards recognised qualifications. If you have a degree, then you'll find that a lot of the big accountancy firms like KPMG and Deloitte actually offer really good graduate programs where they'll take you on with no experience and train you to become an accountant over the course of 2 or 3 years or so. I will of course put some links to some of those in the description as well. If you're somebody who would prefer to study first and gain some industry qualifications before getting your first job, then you can check out some of the big accountancy qualification providers like CIMA or ACCA. I'll put links to those two in the description. But personally, I would always recommend going down the apprentice route, because that way the employer will pay for your qualifications and you don't have to pay for them out of your own pocket. Now, before I move on to career number 2 in this list, if you are finding this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button to save it in your like video so you can come back and watch it later if you need to. And of course, if you do find this kind of content helpful, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more job search advice and careers advice content. Career number 2 on this list is IT director. IT directors are essentially people who manage all of the company's technology. So nowadays that's really important because most companies have computers, websites, telephones, applications and more. So an IT director's role is to make sure all of that stuff is working efficiently for the business. So of course this is a great career path for anybody who is interested in technology and people who love solving complex problems. On average, an IT director in the UK earns around £73,000 a year, but there is potential to progress even further than that. Technology is of course a huge field and there are many different ways to become an IT director, but we found the most common way that people were doing it was by starting off as an entry-level IT support engineer. So as an IT support engineer, you would be working on the front line of the technology in the business. So you might be dealing with calls from staff in the business saying that their internet's dropped out or the computer stopped working, and you'd be working directly with them to find out what's wrong with the technology and to fix those problems. You'd also be involved with things like setting up the physical network, setting the computers up, and setting new staff up with their user accounts and passwords and emails and things like that. And generally speaking, these roles start on around about £20,000 a year. And from there, you can work your way up the ranks to an IT team leader and eventually an IT manager, where you'd be looking after a whole department and managing a number of IT support engineers or IT support analysts. And there you'd be earning around about the £40,000 a year mark. Then at around 12 to 15 years of experience, you could potentially move into an IT director role, where you would be responsible for overseeing all of the IT operations for a large business on an average of around £70,000 a year. IT is another sector where you don't necessarily need lots of qualifications to get started. Of course, having an IT related GCSE or A-level will be really helpful, but there are lots of employers who provide IT support apprenticeships where, again, you can start with no experience. They will train you, they'll provide the training you need to get the right qualifications to do the job efficiently, and you can actually earn money while you train. Whilst doing the research for this study, we actually found a website called Not Going to Uni, who have a big list of IT apprenticeships with companies who are looking to take on IT support engineers and other junior IT roles that require no experience, and you can apply for them directly there. So I'll put a link for that in the description below. And generally speaking, when you're applying to IT jobs, the employers will like to see that you have some interest in IT. So if you have no experience or no qualifications, then it will really help if you can put something around your IT related interest into the CV. So maybe you like to fix your friends' computers, or maybe you've created a website or an app in the past. If you can write about that kind of stuff in your CV, then obviously you're going to become much more attractive for IT roles in the eyes of employers when you're sending your CV out. Career number 3 on this list is marketing director. Marketing directors are essentially the most senior person within a marketing department of a business, and they're responsible for delivering all of the marketing that goes on within that business. So marketing is essentially anything to do with making the company's customers aware of their products and services. So it could be anything from television advertising to social media marketing, email marketing campaigns, radio and everything in between. So it involves coming up with creative campaigns, advertising campaigns, marketing campaigns to reach potential customers, and then actually executing all of the work to get those campaigns out there and bring in as many potential customers to the business as possible. So marketing generally tends to appeal to quite creative people, because you need to be quite creative to come up with these campaigns and these ideas, but you also have to be very organised and good with people to manage their campaigns, manage the teams, manage budgets, and also quite analytical to report the figures back to management. The average marketing director in the UK earns around £81,000 a year. Typically, a marketing career will start with a junior entry-level marketing role, such as a marketing assistant, where you'd be helping out a marketing team with some basic marketing work. So you might be helping to research things for campaigns, do some basic copywriting, or creating some content for social media. And these jobs will generally pay around £19,000 to £22,000 a year. You'd normally work in an assistant role for about 1 or 2 years before becoming a marketing executive, where you'd start to take more personal responsibility over campaigns, and you might also start to specialise in a particular area. So you might start to specialise in social media marketing, or email marketing, or television advertising. And then at around the 10-year mark in the career, you could expect to move into a marketing manager role. And here you'd be managing a team of marketing executives, and you might be responsible for a particular service or product within a business. And marketing manager roles tend to pay an average of around £40,000 to £50,000 a year. And then in another 5 years, you'd usually expect to move into a marketing director role, and that's where you'd be looking after the marketing efforts for a whole business. So you'd be managing very large teams, very large budgets, and those roles pay an average of around £80,000 a year. Marketing is yet another profession where there isn't one particular strict career path. There are lots of different ways that you can get started and work your way through to the top. You don't necessarily need qualifications to to get an entry-level job in marketing, but of course it does help a degree in marketing be very beneficial, but it's not 100% essential if you don't want to commit to university. In fact, if you want to get some free marketing qualifications that are recognised in the industry and will help you to learn the fundamentals of marketing, then there's a couple of places I would recommend checking out. Google actually have their own training resource that they call Google's Digital Garage, and they've got lots and lots of digital marketing courses on there which you can take in a few hours. HubSpot are also a big well-known marketing company, and they also have lots of free online courses you can take on content marketing, social media marketing, web development and more. I will of course put links to both of those in the description. So if you're looking to get into marketing but you don't have a marketing degree or any other kind of marketing qualifications or experience, then I'd recommend taking some of these courses or any other recognised qualifications you can find, doing them, getting trained up, getting some of those qualifications onto the CV, and then just get onto Reed or CV Library or somewhere, start searching for junior marketing jobs or assistant marketing jobs, see what you can find, start applying, and just look to try and get that first job to get your foot in the door. And then from there, once you get that first job, that's when you can really start to build your experience, start to learn on the job, and start to progress within the industry. Career number 4 on the list is senior police officer. So senior police officers are the management of the police, the people who manage the people and the direction of the police force. So they might be responsible for a particular geographical area like London or Manchester, or they might be in charge of a particular type of crime such as financial crime or gang-related crime. The work involves managing people, administration, and overseeing the operations of police work to ensure that criminals get convicted. So senior police jobs are obviously very important. They carry a lot of responsibility, but they're also very interesting jobs, very rewarding, and you're making a big impact on society when you're doing a job like that. But it's also worth noting on the negative side that there's always some level of risk if you're working in the police. The average senior police officer in the UK earns around £57,000 a year, which is more than double the country's average salary. Usually anybody entering the British police force will need to start as a police constable, and constables are the police that you see out and about policing the streets, who are actually physically responding to and dealing with crimes. Police constables in the UK start on an average of £22,500 a year, and the first promotion into a managerial role will usually come at around 7 years, where they'll be promoted to sergeant level. And this is where they'll start to get more involved with the administration side of police work, managing other police officers, and this carries a pay rise of up to £43,000 a year, which is obviously quite a decent jump from the original starting salary. Then at around the 12-year mark, you could expect to be promoted to inspector level, which is an even more senior management level, where you'd be predominantly office-based and you would be leading a big team, planning operations and leading strategy. And from there, the next usual promotion would be chief inspector level, which is an even bigger step into senior management, and that's where you'd hit the average high pay for a senior police officer at around £57,000 a year, and this will normally take around 15 years to achieve. The police have a very strict career path, and to join the police in the UK you need to apply to one of the forces directly, so you need to apply to somewhere like the Metropolitan Police or the British Transport Police. There's actually a website called joiningthepolice.co.uk which tells you which forces are recruiting right now and how to apply, so I'll put a link to that page below. Every force has slightly different requirements, but generally speaking, to join any of the police forces, you'll need to have the following things. You need to be 18 years of age, or you can apply at 17, but you need to be turning 18 by the time you'll actually be joining the police. You have to be a British citizen, or you have to be a foreign national with long enough leave to be able to stay in the country indefinitely. You have to be fit and healthy with good eyesight. You cannot have a criminal record of any kind, although some forces will accept very, very minor criminal offences on your record. Some forces will also require some basic GCSEs. If you don't have a degree, you can join the police apprenticeship scheme, where you will receive 3 years of training on the job to become a police constable. If you do have a degree, some forces are actually offering something called detective entry, where you can actually join the police as a detective and skip out some of those earlier stages, but there's still a 2-year probation period that you need to pass if you take that route. And whichever route you take, the police application process is hard. It's not the kind of job where you'll do a couple of interviews and then start the next week. Most police forces will require you to attend assessment centres, to undergo written tests, judgment tests, fitness tests, and a very strict vetting process. And to give you some more information on what's required in the police application process, I'll put a link below to the joiningthepolice.co.uk website, which has a lot more detailed information on that. And the 5th career on this list is GP, or general practitioner. So general practitioners are the doctors that you would go and see at your local doctor's surgery. So they work directly with people in their local community, doing things like diagnosing symptoms, prescribing medicines, and referring patients to specialists for more complex health issues. So it's a really good match for people who are interested in the sciences like biology and chemistry, and it's really good for people who enjoy working with and helping people. And it's also probably more suited to academic type people because there's a lot of subject matter to learn and retain to make sure you're providing the correct diagnosis to patients. An average doctor in the UK will earn around £62,000 a year, but those with more experience can earn even more. Doctors have a very structured career path, and every GP will have to start with the NHS as a junior doctor on around £28,000 a year. In this role, they'll be rotated around the hospital and they will receive their 2 years of foundation training to become a qualified doctor. Then your salary would increase to around the 40 to 50k mark as a qualified doctor, but you then have to do a further 3 years of on-the-job training to qualify as a general practitioner. And at that point, your salary will increase to around the 60k mark, but with experience, that can be increased further to 70, 80 and beyond. To become a junior doctor, you need to do a 5-year medicine degree. So this is obviously a very big commitment, both time-wise and financially. If you already have a science degree, you can do a shorter conversion course, but either way, there is a lot of study involved in becoming a doctor. So you really need to do your research and make sure it's the career for you before you start doing that. And I've actually got a video on the channel, which I'll put a link up to somewhere, with some guidance on picking a career path that's right for you. And the final career on this list is pilot. And here we're talking about commercial pilots. So we're talking about the kind of pilots who would be flying the planes that you take to go on holiday. So obviously it's a very, very important, responsible job because you're ensuring the safe travel of hundreds of passengers at a time, but also a very exciting job and one that will potentially allow you to travel the world. At the time of doing this study, the average salary of a pilot is £92,000 according to the Office of National Statistics, making it the highest paid job in the UK at the moment. After completing pilot training, which I will discuss in a bit more detail later, pilots will need to join an airline as a first officer, which is the most junior pilot that you'll see on a commercial flight, and that pays an average salary of £45,000 a year. From there, you'd have to complete 1,500 hours of flying time to gain promotion to captain, which will see the salary rise to £60,000 a year and normally takes around 8 years to achieve. And then with a further 8 years experience on top of that, you could expect to hit the high salary of £92,000 a year. Becoming a pilot is very difficult because you have to attend a private flying school and gain what's called a frozen license before you can get a job as a first officer with an airline. And the schools that provide these training charge an average of £95,000 for those courses, and they take an average of 1 to 3 years to complete. And the government don't offer student loans like they do for university degrees, so this will have to be completely self-funded, which means that you'll have to take out a big loan or pay in stages, and both of which are obviously huge commitments. So if you're thinking about becoming a pilot, you have to do lots of research to ensure it's the right career for you before you get started, and then you have to undertake that private training. I'll put some links to some of the well-known flying schools in the description below. So that brings me to the end of the video. Thanks very much for watching, and of course if you have any questions about any of the jobs I've mentioned, please ask them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. And if you found the video helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I make lots of videos like this and other videos to help with job search, career advice and CV writing, anything that's geared towards helping you get the jobs that you want. So thanks again for watching and best of luck with your job search.